Get ready to set sail on a journey through the wildest ship collisions in history. We've all been there, we've made mistakes and faced the consequences. But when you're at the helm of a massive vessel, those blunders can lead to absolute chaos. From everyday errors to epic mishaps, we're diving into the top 15 most mind-blowing ship crashes ever recorded. Buckle up as we kick off this list with number 15. The ill-fated cruise liner that took an unforgettable wrong turn in the heart of Venice. Imagine being in one of the world's most breathtaking cities, Venice, during peak tourist season, but instead of taking in the stunning architecture, you're dodging chaos. Let's set the scene. Hundreds of thousands of visitors flock to this Italian gem every year, and while cruise ships can be a convenient way to experience it all, they've also been known to clash with local feelings. In 2019, one such ship, the massive 13-deck MSC Opera, made headlines when its engines suddenly gave out right as it was approaching the Giudecca Canal. With no time to react, the crew sounded the alarm and braced for impact. Luckily, people on the dock scrambled to safety, but a riverboat moored nearby had a close call. Its passengers managed to jump ashore just in time before the cruise ship came crashing into the wharf. But here's what happened next. After causing a huge stir in the picturesque Giudecca Canal, the MSC Opera ended up with a seriously damaged bow and a massive repair bill. Miraculously, despite the mayhem, only 5 people were left seriously hurt. But that close call was enough to get Venice's mayor taking action. He made it clear that cruise ships should find new routes pronto to prevent anything like this from happening again in the future. As we'll see next, there are some major players who've got to adapt their plans, and one of them is our next ship, the MSC Armonia. Let's take a closer look at the MSC Armonia. She's a real giant of the seas, standing tall at an impressive 902 feet long and weighing in at a whopping 65,000 tons. But size isn't everything. It seems that in April 18, her crew had a bit of a rough day. As this jaw-dropping footage shows, they took a wrong turn on their approach to a port in Honduras, coming in at the wrong angle and way too fast. The crash was inevitable. Watch as MSC Armonia smashes into the dock, sending structures tumbling into the water. But that's not all. Instead of stopping there, she carries on past the shore, either beaching herself or dropping anchor. It's only when she reverses back out to sea a few moments later that things start to make sense. But it's still anyone's guess how this crazy scene played out. So what really went down with MSC Armonia's wild approach? Well, the cruise line is still scratching its head about how things went so awry. But they're stoked that nobody got hurt and the damage was kept to a minimum. It could have been a whole lot worse. Despite the close call, the good news is that MSC Armonia didn't miss a beat. She continued on her 14-day Caribbean cruise, but we bet her passengers were holding their breath every time she docked at a new port for the rest of the trip. Get ready for a mind-blowing nautical near miss. You'd think that even the most seasoned sailors would have an easy time avoiding the mainland, right? Well, not always. In this jaw-dropping footage from Hong Kong's Phuc Phu Lam district, joggers and athletes were going about their day at Stanley Ho Sports Center when suddenly things took a dramatic turn. A massive German-registered container ship called Hansa Constitution came out of nowhere and ran aground right next to the park. Can you believe it? With all its containers on board and no time to spare, the crew dropped anchor in a last-ditch effort to slow down. But it was too little, too late. You won't believe what happened next. Trapped on the shore with no way out, the Hansa Constitution needed a rescue mission like never before. Enter 2 mighty tugboats, stage right. With all eyes on the drama unfolding in Hong Kong's Phuc Phu Lam district, the crew worked tirelessly to free their stranded ship. But why did this massive container vessel end up stuck in the first place? The likely culprit, a sudden and devastating loss of power which would have left them without control. Talk about being at sea and out of control. the thrilling drama that unfolds when environmental defenders clash with whaling vessels. Picture this: activists tailing majestic whales alongside passionate campaigners on ships like the Sea Shepherd's Bob Barker in 2014. The Yushin Maru 3, a Japanese whaler, was determined to outsmart them at all costs. Initial tactics involved deploying cables to sabotage the pursuer's propellers, but when that plan backfired, things escalated fast. The harrowing moment, the Yushin Maru 3 captain decided to take drastic action, ramming the Bob Barker head-on at breakneck speed, causing severe damage to the vessel in a heart-stopping display of power and danger. The shocking consequences of human error or reckless actions at sea. A deliberate collision like the one between the Yushin Maru 3 and Bob Barker is a grave concern, putting innocent lives on both vessels at risk. Now, let's look at another alarming scenario. Container ships, massive carriers of global cargo, facing emergency situations where their sheer size makes it extremely difficult for crews to react quickly or change course in time. This harrowing incident from December 2018 showcases the Rianjin 15, a 4,300-ton vessel, as it loses control near Nunchou Port in Guangzhou, narrowly missing its dock. A close call that highlights the dangers of maritime accidents and the importance of safety protocols at sea. Buckle up, because we're diving into an intense maritime mishap. The Rianjin 15, a behemoth container ship with over 4,300 tons of cargo on board, veered off course near the Nunchou port in Guangzhou and barreled straight into the smaller Haisu 10, a 698-ton vessel that was just chillin' at its dock. The impact was catastrophic, sending containers tumbling off the damaged ship and leaving the Haisu 10 listing severely to one side. Rescue teams had to rush in with pumps to drain water from inside the ship and stabilize it. Talk about a close call. Meanwhile, the Rianjin 15 suffered major hull damage that rendered it unfit for sea, prompting an extensive repair job. Miraculously, this high-stakes collision didn't result in injuries or pollution, but it's a stark reminder of the importance of maritime safety and the need to identify what went wrong so we can prevent such incidents in the future. Get ready for a jaw-dropping maritime disaster. On a fateful day in October 2010, the massive MV Grand Rodosi, a 738-foot-long grain carrier, was steaming towards the Port Lincoln Wharf in South Australia when its steering apparently gave out, and with catastrophic consequences. The ship slammed into the humble tuna trawler Apollo S, leaving it looking like a can opener on a tin of baked beans, totally split open and crushed beyond recognition. Eyewitnesses were left stunned as the full horror became clear when the grain ship was finally pulled away. The trawler rolled onto its side, with part of the jetty collapsed on top, a harrowing sight that still sends chills down our spines. Buckle up for a mind-blowing maritime mishap. In an incident that's as shocking as it is sobering, the massive Sea Grand crashed into a bridge in the Netherlands after its captain made a critical mistake. He'd been behind the wheel while under the influence of alcohol. The 164-foot-long ship, worth around $1 million, wasn't just any ordinary vessel. It was a luxurious pleasure boat on a scenic cruise when disaster struck. With devastating consequences, the Sea Grand clipped a bridge in the picturesque town of Harlingen. And we're not talking about just a scratch. The collision left the bridge severely damaged, causing a huge mess and raising serious questions about safety at sea. Get ready for a jaw-dropping tale from the high seas. Imagine a massive Russian cargo ship, the Sea Grand, packing an astonishing 3 million pounds of steel coins. That's enough to fill a football stadium. In February 2019, this enormous vessel set sail from South Korea, bound for Vladivostok. But things took a drastic turn when, instead of sticking to its planned route along the coast, the ship suddenly veered off course into a small bay and made a beeline straight for the Guangdong Bridge, a double-decker road overpass in South Korea. Officials sprang into action. rapidly radioing warnings to the captain. However, communication proved to be a significant challenge since he spoke little English. As you can imagine, time was of the essence. But alas, it wasn't enough for the Sea Grand to avoid catastrophe. Despite what looks like an attempt to reverse course, it was too late. The ship smashed into the bridge with tremendous force. The dramatic scene was met with stunned drivers, who quickly brought their vehicles to a halt as the devastating impact unfolded before their eyes. But here's where things get even more mind-blowing. You'd expect a ship to come to a grinding halt after crashing into a bridge, but not this one. The Sea Grand shockingly reversed course and continued on its journey like nothing happened. It was as if it was in a real-life video game. However, its getaway was short-lived because Coast Guards were hot on its tail with 4 patrol boats and eventually forced it back to port. Once docked, things took an even darker turn. The captain's breath test revealed he had nearly 3 times the legal limit of alcohol in his system. But wait, there's more. An investigation later uncovered another potential incident where the vessel might have collided with a cruise ship while leaving its original port. Although it's unclear if the captain was at the helm then, he's taken full responsibility for both incidents and has been arrested as a result. Big shout out to our growing top 5 crew. We're super excited to have more talented folks on board to bring you the most epic content ever. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single update. Alright, let's dive into our next mind-blowing tale. Number 8, the Disney Dream. We all know Disney for its magical theme parks and beloved characters, but their cruise ships are a whole other level of wow factor. Just check out those Mickey Mouse statues on the hulls. However, when disaster struck in 2017, nothing could overshadow the severity of what happened. Here's what happened. The Disney Dream was slowly backing up in Nassau, Bahamas, getting ready for a visit, when suddenly it failed to stop on time. There was a loud top-15 sound as it made contact with something. The captain quickly reversed gear and pulled forward so they could assess the damage, and luckily the ship was still seaworthy. The dock itself wasn't severely hurt either. The Disney Dream managed to tie up properly after a second attempt. But if you look closely at some old footage, you'll spot some makeshift patches on the bow. That's where the collision left its mark. Despite this minor setback, the Disney Dream didn't miss a beat in its schedule and was repaired during a quiet period between cruises. Let's jump into another maritime mystery. In 2018, the Petra Star was anchored in the Kerch Strait, Black Sea, along with its neighbor, Insa Hamburg, both ships taking a breather before a long voyage ahead. It seemed like the perfect time for the crew to get some rest off, but Mother Nature had other plans. A sudden storm rolled in, whipping up strong currents that sent the Petra Star drifting alarmingly close to its anchored companion. The situation was chaotic as the crew scrambled to regain control of their ship before disaster struck. Number 6 takes us aboard a general cargo ship in port, where safety is always top priority. Even when it seems like everything's under control. You see, just because a ship is anchored or moored doesn't mean all hands can take a break. There needs to be someone on the bridge at all times, keeping watch for any signs of trouble. Whether it's a rope snapping, an unexpected current pulling the vessel loose, or another emergency brewing. The reason: security is never absolute, and being prepared to react fast can prevent disaster. And not just any disaster, but the kind that could put lives at risk or leave you facing a massive repair bill. Let's take a look at an intense example from the Black Sea in 2018. The Sarah F., a general cargo ship, was caught off guard by unpredictable weather, which is notorious for hitting that area without warning. As fierce winds whipped up, the Sarah F. started to drag its anchor and tried to regain control by revving up the engines. But it was too late. The ship ended up crashing into another vessel nearby, leaving both ships with slight damage. And here's where things get really tricky in trying to set sail again. The crew realized that both anchors had gotten hopelessly tangled together. You can imagine how frustrating this must have been for them, especially since cutting loose and replacing them wouldn't be an easy fix. An investigation later found that the Sarah F's crew was responsible for the incident, a sobering reminder of why vigilance is key in such unpredictable waters. Here's another mind-blowing example. Back in April 2017, a car ferry setting sail from the Puerto de los port on Gran Canaria Island, Spain, hit a major snag, or should I say, a major wall. As it was leaving the port, the crew faced an electrical fault that knocked out their steering system completely. You can imagine how helpless they must have felt as they watched the ferry plow straight into the harbor wall in a massive head-on collision. The impact was so intense that it actually caused part of the wall to crumble under the force. It's shocking just thinking about it, and thanks to footage, we got a glimpse of what happened during this terrifying moment for all on board. Let's break down what happened next. It could have been a disaster of epic proportions. Thanks to some seriously bad timing on the part of drivers, there were no vehicles passing by the other side of the road when this happened, so we can all breathe a sigh of relief about that. But for those 13 passengers who got hurt in the crash, it was a really tough night. 5 of them even ended up in hospital. The ferry itself took quite a beating and had to be repaired after the accident. But the real challenge came when it became clear that the collision with the underwater fuel pipes had created an oil slick stretching over ONA&A miles long. That's not just bad for the environment, it also meant a big cleanup job for everyone involved. Let's dive into another mind-blowing maritime mishap. It's like they say, when it rains it pours. Imagine being an insurance broker for Carnival Cruises and getting a call saying 2 of their massive cruise ships just crashed into each other while moored in Mexico. This crazy collision happened back in December 2019 at Cozumel Port, and here's the wild part. It was all because the Carnival Glory ship was trying to tie up when it somehow ended up bumping into its neighbor, the Carnival Legend. It's a miracle no one got seriously hurt, but we'll get into what happened next, and trust me, it gets even crazier. Hold on to your life jacket. Things just got a lot more intense. When those Carnival ships bumped into each other, 6 Glory passengers were hurt and rushed to the medical center. But luckily, everyone on the Legend ship was either snoozing or on shore when it happened. Most cruisers didn't even realize they'd been in an accident until they caught sight of their ships from outside. That's when they saw just how rough things looked. Now, neither vessel had any major structural issues, but they did take a beating. Several decks were closed due to the damage, and let me tell you, it wasn't pretty. Carnival kept mum about the full extent of the mess or how much it set them back, but the Glory ship was the one that took the brunt of the impact. It sailed off into the sunset for the rest of its cruise without a hitch, but here's where things get even more jaw-dropping. But here's where it gets really dramatic. Another ship called Oasis of the Seas from Royal Caribbean was cruising nearby, and if it had gotten tangled up in this mess, we're talking about repair costs that could have reached into the millions. Now, let's hop across to South Korea and check out what happened with the Milano Bridge. This 13,000-ton cargo vessel was trying to dock at Busan back in April 2020, but it suddenly lost control, and I mean big time. It kept veering towards the shore like a ship without rudder before smashing into one of the crucial support cranes. The impact was so intense that the crane got completely annihilated, according to port officials. And with such devastating damage, you can bet your life jacket there was an in-depth investigation launched to figure out what went wrong. So, let's get to the bottom of what went wrong with the Milano Bridge. The investigation revealed that this massive cargo vessel was cruising into Busan port way too fast. We're talking 8 knots instead of the recommended 6, and it didn't slow down in time. And if that wasn't enough, it had to deal with a strong gust of wind from the side, making things even trickier. Plus, the ship was super light and couldn't maneuver well because its propeller was basically sticking out of the water, meaning it should have had way more ballast on board for a vessel of its size. As a result of this chaos, not only did the Milano Bridge crash into that crucial crane, but it also got into a scuffle with another container ship called Seaspan Ganges. And the final verdict: the captain was to blame. But here's what's really interesting. When they recreated the incident, they found out that if just one thing had changed all, like having the propeller fully submerged or traveling at 7 knots or less, this whole disaster could have been avoided. Now let's dive into another maritime mystery, the Empty Hermand incident. So, here's a shipping rule you should know. Bigger ships get priority because they're harder to steer, and if an accident happens, the smaller boat usually takes the hit. But what do you do when you've got 2 massive ships heading for the same spot? It's like a big game of maritime chess where everyone's waiting to see who will make their move first. This exact scenario played out in 2015 near Singapore, where 2 ships, the Empty Hermand and another vessel we don't know much about yet, were trying to navigate through the same waters. As they got closer, it became clear that there just wasn't enough room for both of them to pass safely. And this is when things started to get really interesting. Check out this close call at the number 1 port in Singapore, the Empty Hermand incident. The oil tanker, owned by Iran's national tanker company, was trying a tricky move, but it was way too ambitious. The captain took a hairpin turn that left no room for error, and guess what? His ship ended up crashing into a stationary vessel. Luckily, both ships dodged major damage, and the Hermand simply backed off and waited its turn, just like all the other ships in line, getting ready to enter the busy harbor. This near miss is a great reminder of how crucial it is for sailors to keep their cool and give each other plenty of space when navigating through tight waters. You won't believe this jaw-dropping collision caught on camera. Here's a crew member on a ship anchored next to a larger vessel, and he's got his heart in his mouth as he watches a cargo ship coming straight for them. The craziest part, he can literally see the danger unfolding right before his eyes. It's like slow motion horror, and yet the reckless captain keeps sailing full steam ahead, not even flinching as he speeds towards an inevitable crash. The crew member lets out a terrified scream, but deep down, we all know it might be too little, too late. What's even more mind-boggling is that this kind of reckless behavior happens way more often than you'd think. And it just goes to show how crucial vigilance is when navigating the high seas. But wait, it gets even wilder. This cargo ship isn't just sailing straight into the larger vessel. It's got a massive gangplank protruding from its bow, essentially a ticking time bomb waiting to wreak havoc in case of a collision. And guess what? That very gangplank somehow manages to scrape right over the top of the other ship, leaving you thinking they might have gotten away with it. Until BAM. The main bow crashes into the larger vessel, punching a gaping hole into its side. It's like slow motion chaos. And just when you think the damage is done, both ships come to a grinding halt, stuck together like 2 puzzle pieces that refuse to budge. The aftermath? Weeks of intense repairs by salvage teams before these vessels could finally be freed from their watery entanglement.